Okay, so hey everyone, welcome to another Cyberscope Twitter space where we'll be unlocking the secrets of Web3, this time with Onether Digital. So welcome, Ross. It's a pleasure having you here today.
Hey, likewise, man. Thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
For sure, it's a pleasure. So let's dive straight into it, yeah?
I'm ready.
Nice. Okay, so I'm really interested to hear about your story, guys, and how did you come up with the idea? And a short introduction about who you are and what you're doing.
Sure. So my name is Vladimir Spelivanidis. I'm known as Rospeli in the cryptosphere. Um, I started to work in the space as a writer in 2016. I've changed a plethora of positions and companies and projects, I would say, both kind of like Web3 native projects as well as more corporate environments. And I've been working around cybersecurity with a bunch of leading players like 30K or Omniscia, and now with you guys with Cyberscope. When it comes to Onether, we started this company in 2020 with my partner because we saw a gap that there are a bunch of projects that are looking for funds, marketing, audits, generally looking for connections, networking, and some insights, especially Web3 projects that are starting now or Web2 projects that, looking for a ramp into Web3 without knowing a lot about it. So we were pretty connected already, being in the space for quite some time. So we were trying to help these projects, and after a point, we had a huge influx of requests or clients, let's say. So we took it a step further and started on it. To be honest, in the beginning, in 2020, we started as a dev studio. So we were mostly helping Web3 projects with finding the right talent or connecting them with some in-house developers to help them scale their business model faster. But lately, we kind of pivoted into a more consulting slash networking firm where we basically connect the dots between projects, founders, and capital or again marketing audits wherever it can be in the space from regulators to anything you can imagine.
Awesome. Sounds really interesting, and especially your background, I must say. So, the Web3 is a really fast-paced environment, right? So there are a lot of new startups and a lot of challenges that these startups are facing while trying to make it. So, what were some of the challenges you guys faced to actually make it a reality?
Oh, that's a tough one, man, but I think the challenge, we were talking about this yesterday also with some investors. I think the biggest challenge in the space is education. Like we have it, the education is better than what we had like some years ago, even like last year, but it's still very marketing intensive and not so much like genuine clean cut education. So it might be easier for people who are somewhat familiar with blockchain or at least technology and software in general, or you'll have to dig really deep to kind of make sense of everything. So I think education is definitely something we saw as a barrier to connect the dots between different people and projects, and especially the higher you go on the ladder, like if you talk to big corporate projects or even like European Commission members or regulators, you start to see that they don't really understand blockchain. They don't really understand why this technology is important, how it works, and how it's going to change our lives. They kind of focus on the monetary aspect, which is natural for anyone who just starts, but yeah, I think there are plenty of challenges. There are also technological challenges, but education, although it sounds very basic, very cliche, I think it's still we're still not there where it's easy for everyone to understand the value of this.
For sure, 100%. I also notice a huge gap when it comes to education. I think it's going to be when we actually develop this specific when we develop education more, and there are more courses for newcomers to study on. We're going to be a step closer to mass adoption. This is the ultimate goal, isn't it?
For sure, for sure. Education is important for anything new, I guess. But when it comes to mass adoption, I guess it depends on how you look at it. Like for me, blockchain already has mass adoption, right? So whoever uses it in any way, you don't have to be like a developer. The majority of people think that, oh, you're working Web3, you're probably like a programmer or something. But it's a completely new industry and it offers so many opportunities for different minds, different workers, especially digital workers is easy to onboard in the space, I guess.
I really, sorry to cut you off. I really want to stand to the point where you said, like everybody thinks you're like a programmer or something, when you talk about blockchain. Because also to me, every time someone asks what I'm doing, and I'm like, I do crypto and stuff, they're like, are you a developer? Are you doing coding and all that? But it's so much more than that. Um, So next question is, I wanted to ask you guys about your target audience, right? So what kind of audience do you attract? And feel free to share a notable story with the client and how the interaction went by.
Sure. So, to be honest, with Onether, we kind of worked in a closed circle where we had most of our networking, let's say, nodes or partners or friends reaching out to us and saying like, "Hey, I need a guy to do this. I need a front end guy. I need a UI guy." So we were doing this on a regular basis for quite some time, and now with Onether, also we have the legal entity set up. We're not really loud with marketing to trying to reach like a specific audience again because we still have a huge influx of people. I can say that most of them are looking for funding these days, and it's a pretty good timing because also you don't see the crazy hype we had in 2020, 2021 from VCs. I hear a lot of VCs looking to spare like 50K, 100K, 200K to interesting projects. And it's not very, very loud at this moment, which I think is the perfect timing to connect the dots. Besides that, again, we don't target any specific audience. We kind of act as doctors. So we basically talk with the project, we listen to their problems, we listen to some of their challenges, and then we try to see whether we can help them personally or connect them to someone who can, and kind of sort of like tailor the solution to them. Um, I think this period, I can say with certainty that most projects are looking for funding, and then some parallels would be marketing and projects that raised or are trying to raise like seven figures plus. They're definitely looking for audits because it's gonna make their project look solid proof.
Hmm. Great stuff. So surely, like back in 21, things were so different, and there wasn't a lot of development as well. Like everything was so meme focused with absolutely no utility at all. I mean, at least from my experience. But like, during 2022 and like 23, I see massive steps towards development and stuff. So from the VCs that you're saying, they're looking to invest like a 50 and 50K, 100K and stuff. To what sort of projects are they excited on investing? Like what sort of technologies and what sort of advancements um, are you are you noticing?
Well, that really depends on the type of VC, the risk they're willing to take. Like some of them will literally give like a check to any Web3 related project, whether it's DeFi related, NFT related, metaverse related, DAOs. Some of them are more picky, so they would want to invest on very specific verticals. Maybe like the bigger players are looking for something that is about deep DeFi or fintech projects that can connect also with traditional finance. And there are a bunch of new VCs that are also focusing on metaverse subgenres like digital fashion, avatars, and stuff like that. Um, but generally, it depends. Like the problem with the VCs is that they don't usually, even the biggest ones, they don't have an internal due diligence process, or maybe they have just one smart contract auditor that can kind of tell you whether this makes sense or not, but they still are very far behind from understanding, whether a project is legit or not. And this is also where we come in, like besides helping individual projects to find what they're looking for in the space to get to the next level, we also advise with VCs and several European Commission task force in terms of due diligence to kind of provide them a scoreboard or an intensive research about different projects and whether they should dive deeper or not, whether they should get involved or not. In these cases, audits play a major role, maybe not for new startups, but projects that have already raised quite some capital. It's sort of like obligatory that they do some audits and to go to the next level, especially if they're raising more. So we try to kind of help both projects to get a better scoring from different angles like tech, marketing, team, legal, jurisdiction, all that stuff, but also VCs to kind of filter out the noise and focus on like 10 or 15 or 20 projects we suggest that they should be looking at, not investing necessarily, but projects that are somewhat vetted by a group of people, not just one smart contract auditor. And in most cases, even if your smart contracts are legit, you might just have copied them from Open Zeppelin or something, and then you don't have a marketing plan, you don't have a go-to-market strategy, you haven't sorted out your jurisdiction, and this can be red flags even if your contracts are perfect.
Great info. So actually, I've never thought about it this way when it comes to VCs and the whole due diligence process. I had no clue that they're actually pretty poor at this. So, and it's great that you guys found the gap and you're helping them do due diligence and distinguish the good from the bad. So. I wanted to move on. I wanted to move on to a bit to the competition, right? So as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of competition because this is a really fast-paced environment. We see new startups every day. So when it comes to your unique value proposition, guys, what makes you different from other Web3 consulting firms? I mean, you've already mentioned a few things actually. I'm sorry to cut you off, such as the helping VCs due diligence and stuff. I think this is part of your unique value proposition because I've never heard it before,
This is
just from my experience.
this, yeah, this is a nice question. Thank you for this. I think that definitely this due diligence with VCs and not only VCs, but in general, whoever is serious about diving in the space, especially with huge capital, they definitely need to have a clear idea of where they're getting into. But I would say that our greatest value is literally our network. It sounds so simple and so cliche, but it's hard to connect with important figures in the space, I would say, especially now. Like when we started, it was really easy to connect with Binance or CoinMarketCap or all these big VCs like Outlier Ventures and etc. And now it's not difficult, it's not impossible, but you have to go through a process, apply or something like this, where we have direct links with most of them. This has been, although it's not a service, being so flexible in the space, knowing so many different people, I think it's what most of our clients and partners are looking for, and what brings most of the value. In terms of consulting, we as I said earlier, like in the past we were trying to kind of sell our services or products or development skills, and we're like trying to show whatever it is we're selling to potential clients. We were going and saying like, oh, you do you want a, I don't know, like a rice bowl or something, because this was what we were selling, for example. And if people didn't want that rice, we would lose these clients. Instead, we have changed our strategy nowadays, and what we do is we don't sell anything. We just, as I said earlier, we act as doctors. We listen to the people. We want to hear their problems, and then we kind of have a think tank. We brainstorm with internally, and then we come up with a potential solution, or maybe like two different paths they could take. And at the same time, I think what makes us different from other consulting firms is that we have a range of services, I guess, which cover the entire Web3 spectrum, right? We don't do anything, everything internally, but we are pretty connected. So it's not just about like helping you build a product or helping you with marketing, but we can connect you to bankers, to regulators, to different jurisdictions, find a model that will instead of like saying to projects like, oh, what you want to do is not possible because you might be flagged as a security or as a dividend or whatever, we try to see what they want to do with their token or with their ecosystem, and then we figure out a way how this would be possible even if it's not possible in their jurisdiction.
Hmm.
uh, Yeah, man. I think there are we have brilliant people both in the team and in our network, but I think again the most important value we bring to the table, which is very hard to compete with unless you have spent the same amount of time in the space and you are a networker at heart and you connect with people. I think this is something that you can offer advice, you can offer technical advice or marketing advice, but connecting with very, very important figures or brands or projects in the space is something you build over time. And I think we've managed that very well.
Hmm. I agree with you 100%, and especially when it comes to a consulting firm, I'm sure networking plays a huge role. I mean, networking plays a huge role in every industry, in every company, but especially when it comes to consulting, and because you guys outsource most of your clients, and you're trying to find like the best fit, the best services for them. And I really like your approach as well when it comes to, acting acting kind of as a doctor instead of, I've got this and that, and I want to sell it to you. I think listening to the client first is a much more effective approach, right?
Oh, yes, 100%. And these are things that we learn over time. We're not like gurus or experts on anything ourselves. We have vast experience, obviously, in the space, but we constantly adapt. We change our strategy. We pivot anytime we think there's a better way to secure deal flows or kind of help projects optimize what they're building, whether it's in terms of code or pitching or whatever. I think it's definitely important.
Mm-hmm. For sure, for sure, yeah, 100%. And actually, I wanted to say, um, I actually forgot what I wanted to say, but I'll move on to the next question. And if I remember it, I'm gonna get back to it. So last question when it comes to you guys, because we've analyzed one ether a lot, in the rapidly evolving landscape of Web3, how do you guys stay updated and ensure your services remain cutting edge? You might have mentioned the answer briefly earlier, but you can get into it into more detail if you want.
Sure, sure. So again, we try to we can't know everything. Like maybe when we were more into writing articles or working with media outlets, it was easier to stay up to date because you naturally read anything that happens, especially in the EVM ecosystem where we are focused. It's easy to kind of see what is trending right now, or what are some new AIPs coming out, or um, be in position to have a broad understanding of what are the new possibilities, because as you mentioned, this space evolves so fast that if you don't read the news for a couple of days, you're already behind the trending curve, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in this case, what we do is that we trust our partner, we trust our network, and we always are up to take advice and critique, especially from people who are more experienced than us or projects that are more experienced. And we try to always create actionable steps based on that feedback. Whether it's like, oh, you can change this on your website, or you should do this better, or try to why don't you try go to VCs and create like a due diligence service for them, as I was mentioning earlier. All this stuff are advice that comes out of discussions, intensive networking, and being able to listen to I think
Mm-hmm.
especially to people that have something to criticize, not just say like, "Oh, you're a nice firm," or "Thank you for helping me with that or this," but people who would say to us like, "Hey, you should maybe try this or try that or talk to that." We always are up to explore all these different verticals, and if something leads to somewhere, that's fine. If it doesn't, that's okay.
Yeah,
Well,
100%.
we don't have like a specific kind of framework of how we stay up to date, but we are a diverse
All
team.
comes down to research, right?
Correct, correct, correct.
I actually wanted to get back to this because that's exactly what I wanted to talk about earlier. Because you guys said, so you first listen to the client, and then you obviously might not know a few things of what they're asking. So the next process is to go ahead and like do the research and get the red flags from your network to provide to the client. That's what I wanted to say earlier. So like research plays a huge role in this. Seems like in this part.
100%. And at this rate, I think we, besides our researchers and analysts in the team, we don't. I personally don't do any research anymore. Like I have uh kind of, maybe I'm spoiled, but even if there's something I don't know, I'm gonna just open Telegram and I'm gonna send a message to someone who's an expert in this field, or a company or an advising firm. In your case, for example, you're an auditing firm, one of our new partners. If somebody asks me something crazy about audits that I don't understand, also have a good idea.
I think I might have lost you there, Ross. Can you guys hear us? Let's just give him a minute. Ross, try getting out and getting back in. Maybe that works. Hey Ross, are you there?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, 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 yeah. All good, all good. Just technical issues, all good. Oh, he left. He's gonna get back in, all good. There we go. Hey there, Ross.
Virginia, I hope it's better now.
No, that's all good. Don't even worry about it. Just some quick technical issues. So you were saying?
Um, where did we left? I think to how we do the research, or how we stay.
Yeah, yeah. Last thing we talked about was research and like the fast evolving space and how you guys research to provide the best. Oh, actually, we were talking about the newest partnership, and if you've got something like a very high complexity question,
Correct. So
you're gonna forward it to us, right?
exactly, like in your case, like if somebody
Mm-hmm.
asks something about audits, or like it's something very specific about smart contracts, we would come to you or to other partners, depending on the question, and we'll seek help directly from the experts. So again, maybe this like a very spoiled kind of thing to do, but we trust our partners. We have a very, very strong network of professionals in the space, and we've been doing this for years, so we know it's actually saves us time. We try to
Mm-hmm.
optimize in a way where we spend as less time as possible, and provide output kind of like the greatest of the value, whether it's like doing just one Telegram intro with a project, with an investor or with an auditing firm. It can change their entire course in a couple of minutes, instead
Yep.
of spending months trying to develop something for someone. This is like the main reason we also kind of pivoted from dev studio into a consulting firm.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff. Yeah, I wanted to say that it's not spoiled at all, actually. I don't perceive it that way. I actually perceive it in a way where it's more ethical towards your client or to whoever asked you the question, because you're actually getting an accurate response from the professionals, right?
100%, and especially if it's people you can trust. You've done this a couple of times in the past. You can be assured that whatever value they provide is actually going to make sense and not expose you in any harmful way.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, it's definitely like eliminating the time between the inquiry and the result and the answer they're looking for.
For sure. Okay, so we're kind of running low on time. We got like another 15. So I'm gonna let you choose between our next two topics, okay? So first one is security and the second one is AI. Which one do you like the most?
Oh goddamn! Like on a on a philosophical level, I would definitely go for AI, but
Okay.
we can also dive a little bit deeper in security. Lately, I've done some research on cross-chain security and physical security, which is something that people don't really consider, at least in blockchain. Well, 99% of the firms, I think they haven't even thought about physical security. They just focus on smart contract security, and they think that's it. So we can talk about any or both. I don't know, up to you.
Okay, let's do a quick security one and then we're gonna dive straight into AI since it's more fun. I'm pretty sure you guys you and Thanos can speak about security for hours from what I heard earlier. So what potential risks should clients be aware of when engaging with Web3 technologies, and like how do you guys assist them in mitigating them?
It all depends on the protocol, I guess, or like their tech stack or what they're building. Whether if it's just like a simple Web3 login site, that's doesn't have anything to do with like holding clients' funds or stuff like that. You wouldn't have to worry a lot about like super securing your contracts. Although it's always advisable, but it all depends on the project. For example, if you're starting a mining company, definitely you have to consider not just like cyber security, but you have to also go a step further and consider network security, firewalls, even like literal physical security, like containers, cameras, facial recognition, access related stuff, which is not smart contract related, but it still affects the well-being of a Web3 system of that scale, let's say. Some examples are, for example, if you remember the Ledger hack, where there was some guy, I think, that kind of changed what the firmware installs, and he, like 1 million users or something were affected, or they had to, I think, erase like tens of millions of ledgers out of the market. And again, this is not like so much of a physical security. Well, it's a combination of digital and physical security, I guess. But my point here is that if you're a small project and you're on chain only, maybe you don't even think about physical security. But I think it's super, super important. And when it comes to decentralized network, it's nice to hear this word and all these buzzwords like Web3, decentralization, etc. But you have to keep in mind that all this is possible through centralized hardware. Like, you use some centralized server, you use some centralized node, and you trust that these people are secure. But I
Mm-hmm.
think as you grow, or if your project is dealing with a lot of funds, or it has physical infrastructure, you definitely have to consider physical security. In our case, we have partnered with a couple of traditional networking firms. We also, I can't name them because we haven't signed yet, but they're like big players in the traditional network security and computer security, like server security, stuff like that. To be able to also guide and provide such advice services and networking to our clients.
Awesome. Glad I asked you that so you could mention the new upcoming partnerships. And we'll have another space in the future where you can dive in more detail in regards to the partners. So okay, let's dive into AI. All right. We still got time. So how do you see AI technologies shaping the future of the Web3 ecosystem, and what are some key areas where it can have the greatest impact? That's from your experience and to your opinion only. It doesn't have to be. It's more subjective.
Well, this is like a broad question, but let's if we focus on Web3, I think definitely uh, AI, and when I say AI, I specifically talk about GPT, which is kind of like what's hyping right now, which leads the AI hype, let's say. Like for me personally, I wouldn't say that GPT is a real AI. I consider it more like a bot, like a very, very smart bot, but it's still a bot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I've seen like crazier AI system or like autonomous logic systems way before that, maybe like a decade ago, that are wild on the net now, and we don't call them AI. But ChatGPT is like very good because it has access to enormous amounts of data, both offline and now with the new updates also online. Um, I would be still skeptical about using it, especially like the way they handle things on a legal scale. It seems like they're trying to create a monopoly here, but I think it's definitely a good entry point for more technical people. Like if somebody wants to start as a developer in the space, as a smart contract engineer, it can provide you from the basic stuff like some guidance, some courses, some direction to where you should start, what you should consider. But even if you're an experienced user, it can help you kind of better understand some flows in your contract, or maybe even write smart contracts based on the input you give it. Obviously, you have to double check everything. It's not perfect, but it definitely eliminates the time between starting to research something and having like a test contract, let's say. And it's not just for a contract. I think it also helps a lot of people with content creation, like both brands and individuals, or community managers, influencers, marketeers, writers, are already exploiting these new technologies, specifically ChatGPT, to kind of come up with a lot of content in the minimum amount of time. It's a double-edged sword for me. I can't say. I think it's brilliant, that this is available, this sort of technology is available, and we can do that. But I think that over time, if you run a quick simulation in your mind and you see where this leads, I see a world where people have forgotten to think on their own. They will ask
Mm-hmm.
everything
100%. I
from
really want
ChatGPT.
I really wanted to actually, lead to this, like resolve this topic to how, everything kind of turns robotic, and like newcomers completely miss the know-how and learning part, which like definitely shapes us within the space, like creates a character for each one of us. And having an AI to do everything will completely deactivate us in the future. That's my thoughts exactly. Like with AI, you can do pretty much everything. Like you can use ChatGPT to, like, create a contract. Then you can get info on how to launch it. Then you can use like another AI that they've got an image generator, like image creator. I'm not sure of the exact name. But then you can, let's say, create a logo for your for your token. You can use ChatGPT to, like, write a description for it. Um, I'm pretty sure they're AI website creator, creating tools and stuff. So you can basically use an AI to do everything from top to bottom.
Exactly. Yeah, I would consider it like as an extra pair of hands. So it would be like as any new employee. If you just give
Yeah.
him the basic info,
For
it's gonna
free.
somewhat. It still needs training as any employee. So you can use him with in a basic way, that just ask stuff, or request some stuff to do, and it will do it in its own way. But if you take the time to train it and create like custom models, custom logic, and custom interactions, I think it can start be as any employer, it can start give you more tailored solutions into what you're looking to.
For sure, yeah, that's the magic of it actually, because like that's the whole AI concept. Because you could create like a robot or like a bot, like you said, and just use it with prompts. So ChatGPT is kind of a bot because it only replies to prompts, and if you're not a master or an expert when it comes to prompts, you're not really going to get the answer you're looking for. And I think they're I'm not entirely sure, but I think their data is latest update was 2020 or 2021. So it doesn't have like the latest, info. Um,
I think that it's well, the GPT-3 goes or 3.5 goes up to 2021, and the
yeah,
GPT-4
yeah.
is live, has live internet connection both with Bing, but also there's a bunch of plugins that help you reach out to information from articles, from PDFs, from pitch decks or whatever, and
Oh,
analyze it
it's gonna
in
be amazing. To be fair, I
yeah,
haven't really
yeah,
looked into it so much, but I'm really eager to like test it out and try it out. I think I've applied for it, but no reply yet.
I think if you have the paid version, like the GPT-4, you should be able to access the plugins. I'm not sure
Oh,
whether
okay.
yeah.
I thought it's only like trial access or beta access.
Yeah, it's still beta for both 4 and GPT-3, but I guess with GPT-3, with the free version, you have to wait in the line, until the congestion goes down or they get better
Mm-hmm.
service, I guess, to
Gotcha,
be
gotcha.
able to access it. But it's really interesting. Like I've been experimenting it for quite some time as well. I have over 1,000 prompts. I have trained some very, very interesting models, like fed them with thousands of articles I've written, shared my tweets, shared my opinions, and now I can ask it to write an article about literally anything, and it's gonna be like I wrote it, not ChatGPT. You still have to do
Oh, that's
some
insane.
clips, bits, you have to do some cut here and there, or can adjust it, but it definitely saves me like 80% of the time.
Yeah, for sure. It saves a lot of time and it's like super efficient. Especially if you've looked into it as much as you have, because every time I use it, in most cases, I don't really get the answer I'm looking for, to be honest. Because I haven't imported all this data, um, like you have.
Yeah, and it's a tiring process because you have to either fork it, like forking it would be the best way, but then you don't get the processing power that the main application offers. But you can create a chat instead of creating like new chats for every question. You can create one chat and then have like 500 questions in that chat. And you can
Hmm.
also customize it. You can create your own logical models. For example, I have given it. Well, not for the writing bot I have created, but I have another bot where I kind of created it based on 4 anime characters in terms of how it speaks or what's important to him
Hmm.
or stuff like that. And then I asked it to create 4 different modes that kind of mix up these different character traits. Like, hey, you're 10% this character, 20% this character, 50% this character. And by doing these conversations without really asking it stuff, but kind of training it, then you can just say like, "Hey, go to mode 2 and answer this question as you've been a combination of these characters." So you can do a lot
That's
of tricks like that to customize the experience. Let's say.
that's super interesting, man. Like I feel like we need to do a workshop, and I mean, you've got so much to teach us here.
100% anytime, guys.
For sure. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Unless you wanna dive into one or two more questions if you got time. Depends.
Please go ahead. I have time until 17:30 Greek time. So for me,
Okay, awesome.
so
Okay, let's do two more questions. All right. So last question for AI. You kind of answered it to be honest, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask it again. So you can dive into it into more detail. So how do you guys prepare for these new opportunities and possibilities when it comes to, AI and when it will be like fully integrated? Have you had any ideas on when it comes to this?
For sure, man. I guess it depends on
You've
the
already answered it,
person.
to be honest. You know,
Yeah.
with all these, data, and you said it saves you a lot of time and stuff,
Mhm. Well, I think it depends on the person. Me personally, I really love technology. I really love not just blockchain, but any sort of technology. I'm into brain to machine interfaces, bioinformatics, quantum computing, Unreal Engine. I'm generally like fascinated with technological innovation. So for me, it was natural to dive deep from day one when this was out, you know. But it depends on the people. Like some people just use it to test it out or to I think most people use ChatGPT as Google. You know, they would go there and ask like, "Oh, how can I cook X like that?" or "Why my ex doesn't answer my phone calls?" or I don't know, like random questions. I think
Yep.
it all boils down to who is using it. If you're like a curious person and you have the time and you have some sort of a logic of how to deal with it, it's definitely gonna unlock a lot of doors.
Hmm.
And again,
Since
for me
you're
personally, this was the case with every new technology, like whether it's VR or exotic tech or blockchain or AI. So it kind of came as natural. And then I was actually like fascinated by digital twins. I've been collecting my personal data for years, even when most of my friends were kind of skeptic and saying like, "Oh, you know, with being monitored, you shouldn't use this app, you shouldn't use your camera or whatever." For me, it was kind of like the opposite. I knew that we are monitored, but I prefer to have all my data absorbed instead of just showing like a fake profile. Because then, if the bot the only thing it knows about you is a fake PFP and fake tweets, it's never gonna learn who you really were, what were your real thoughts or your philosophy or your angle, you know, towards life or technology or politics or anything. And for me, this was like always the case, and that's why it's easier to train a model that's closer to who I am, let's say.
Yeah, that's a super interesting perspective and like, mindset. I've never actually heard this before, to be honest, because like most people are so scared of like being monitored and like, letting their data online and stuff. The pretty interesting perspective. Um, okay, so let's do one more question. Let's do mass adoption. Since I mentioned it earlier, during our first questions when you were speaking about on Ether. I referred to mass adoption. So, what do you believe is the biggest barrier, preventing mass adoption, and how could we overcome it? I mean, we said education already. Um, there could
Well,
be a few more though.
education is definitely the most important thing, but then I think it's sort of most of it relies on politics because every time I talk with someone who's not in blockchain, they're like, "Yeah, but when this is gonna be a thing? Do you think that we're gonna use Bitcoin everywhere or whatever?" And for me, it's like, man, I'm using these technologies for years, you know, and if you want to use them, they're out there. You don't have to wait for regulators to approve it or your bank, your local bank or your local government to approve it. This was the entire point of cryptocurrencies and blockchain networks. So for people who want to use it, I think it's already there. You know, if you want to be part of this, there are plenty of ways to get involved, not just from a monetary perspective or a monetary angle. And then something interesting that a friend of mine and the vice president of the parliament, Eva Kaili, said was that, people they think that there will be one day that suddenly everyone will understand blockchain or cryptocurrencies and will be using them because they really understand the tech. But I don't think this is the case. As Eva told me, she thinks it's going to be the same as traditional payments. For example, like, and the average Joe goes to the coffee shop, he buys a coffee, he swipes the card, he pays for the coffee, and that's it. I don't think he knows how Visa system works, how the Swift system works, what kind of encryption they use, and he shouldn't know. He shouldn't care about this. He should care just about swiping the card or the phone or whatever and getting the product. I think the same is going to happen with blockchain. In most cases, we already use blockchain. For example, the COVID vaccines are NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain. Nobody knows about it. Nobody talks about it because it's not like for-profit NFTs selling on OpenSea or trading or whatever, but they use this technology to verify that you, for example, have done the vaccine in this case. But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to say is that, we will come to the point where everyone, when you swipe your phone and you pay for your coffee, you might be using blockchain even if you don't understand it, and you don't have to understand it, so that blockchain is adopted on that scale, let's say. And
For
what I
sure.
mentioned earlier about politics, I think that politicians are aware of where all this leads, and they're kind of slowly rolling out, things to the public, and they want to focus on specific areas of this to kind of ensure that they're still heard in the future. But this is more of a philosophical question. Like, if you combine what we discussed earlier about AI and blockchain, ideally, this sort of technology should be handled, the logic of it should be handled by an unbiased uh, set of rules, like a consensus,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is an some could say it's an AI itself. It's not ChatGPT, but it has a logic that it follows, and blockchain itself is a
It
form of
does, and
AI.
we're like shaping the logic and the whole process of it, I guess. I just wanted to say, when it comes to politics, I'm pretty sure they were aware of crypto and everything way back. Way back before we were even aware of it, of it as a technology. And they were just very skeptical on when to come out and say, "Yo, guys, we're gonna adopt this and we're gonna make steps, towards it and stuff," because it's still a very um early and new technology, and they don't know if it's legit or not. They don't know if it's actually going to provide the solutions or not. So we're under this trial and error stage where many companies, are trying to come up with new solutions and technologies where are actually going to prove to the world that blockchain is here to stay and it's here to solve problems. Um, Also, when it comes to like regulation and stuff, you know, um, I think it's really important, mainly because those technologies that you mentioned you're using for a long time, and they're solving your problems essentially. If they get too massively adopted, then the government is gonna want in on it. So that's basically what's happening now. They didn't care for so long, but now that a lot of people are starting to use the technology, we're starting to have a lot of blockers when it comes to regulations and stuff. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, when it comes to regulations, I think it's still very vague. Also, everyone's talking about like buzzwords like the SEC or the MiCA framework or whatever. These are all like very, very vague things. And if they affect something, they affect centralized networks, or they affect like centralized service providers, wallets, exchanges. If you wanna find your own way, or like kind of like use your own path to use blockchain, you can still do it regardless of the regulations, regardless of where you are. And when it comes to the government, like, it all depends on what government means. Like, do we talk about the politicians? Do we talk about like clandestine operations, or NRO and triple character
Banks and
agencies?
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
So
central banks have been monitoring crypto since the very beginning, like for a long, long time.
exactly, and I think like depending on how you look at things, I think generally, like every technology, like every breakthrough in the space is backed by the government, whether we realize it or not. Now, in the blockchain field, as we mentioned earlier, like, I don't believe you can have true decentralization without decentralized hardware. We can talk all we want about decentralization, but as long as the data ends up in some Google server or Amazon server or IBM server, it's not decentralized. Even if you use like third-party nodes, or layers and layers and layers of data handlers, or you use like interplanetary file systems, you still use centralized hardware. You still go to some big cloud company, or you use like big um, data storage providers like Samsung or Kioxia or
How
stuff like
could
that.
you apply regulations to something that's completely decentralized though?
You don't need regulations. It should be self-regulated. Otherwise, it's just another company. We don't have to brand it or name it with new
True.
fancy words.
Hmm. So it all
Um,
it all comes down to like giving, passing everyone the mi mindset and the knowledge that essentially a decentralized, decentralization is self-regulated, like you said, I think that's the part that everybody's kind of scared of. What's self-regulation? How does this work? That's pretty
Yeah,
much
yeah,
everybody's question.
exactly. And the process is not very easy. Like I understand that for some people, especially for people who are not familiar with technology or they've never played video games or whatever, it might look overwhelming to create a wallet, store your private keys, have like a dashboard or NFT system or whatever. It can be overwhelming, but this was the case with any technology, really. Maybe 10 or 20 years ago, my parents wouldn't even know what the internet is, and now they're
Exactly.
praising TikTok.
It's like
Uh,
the same thing as you said with the cards and everything, right? Like when the
Correct.
cards came out and like when people saw their money on e-banking and stuff, they didn't understand that it's actually real money, unless they hold it on their hand, like on paper. Nobody was using cards because they were scared of you. They didn't know how to use cards. They're like, how can I pay with a card? Like I know how to pay with a note, but
Yep, yep,
I
it's the
think it's the
same
same
thing.
the same thing with crypto, right? Like it's the process of, transitioning from traditional card payments, traditional for us now, but not traditional 20 years ago. So let's see what's gonna happen in 20 years from now.
For sure,
Awesome,
for
man. I think we're gonna put an end to it as you also need to go shortly. It was a real pleasure having you, and I had such a great time, honestly.
Likewise, man. I really enjoyed the talk. Thanks for having me on, and I hope we can do this again and dive
Anytime, for
deeper into
sure.
more vague and philosophical aspects of
We
this.
will we will do it again, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think it was a great chance for our community to meet you guys. And the AMA is also recorded, so we're gonna post it later if you can share with your community as well. And for sure, we're gonna do it again.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for everyone who attended and listened to us live, or whoever is listening to this recording. And catch you guys online.
Thank you, Ross. Have a great day, buddy. Okay, so don't leave, guys. We're gonna do the giveaway winners now. So please make sure you followed all the steps, right? Because if you haven't followed the steps, we cannot really, send the reward. So go ahead and follow all the steps, and we're gonna pick two random winners from the audience. I'll give you 1 minute just to make sure. Okay, so who are we gonna pick? I see some guys spamming reactions. Let's get everybody to spam some reactions. Okay, so Ari, first winner, and I'm gonna do Freddy second winner because I've seen he's here from the start. I really want to do Freddy. So Freddy and Ari. Okay, guys, see you on the next one for a chance to win $100. Have a great day.